I didn't raise my voice. I didn't even move from where I was standing. I just stepped aside from the doorway, gestured toward the kitchen table, and let them see the folder I'd left open there. Mortgage statements, payment receipts, the deed. Every single document, going back 7 years, organized by date, with my name on every single line. My mom's face did something I'd never seen it do before. She didn't look angry. She looked small. My brother Ethan reached for one of the pages. I watched his hand stop halfway, like his body already knew before his brain caught up. And I thought, you brought a toolbox to break into my home this morning. And this is what you found instead. Stay with me, because this started way before that morning. And it ends somewhere none of us expected. If you've ever been the responsible one in a family, the one everyone quietly leans on and publicly overlooks, this one's going to feel uncomfortably familiar. If this story stays with you, hit like and subscribe. I post every week, and the comment section on these videos has genuinely become one of the most honest corners of the internet. Okay, let's go back to the beginning. I moved into my apartment at 23. It wasn't glamorous. 3rd floor, 1 bedroom, a 2nd room I immediately turned into a workshop, because even then I knew that's where my actual life would happen. I make furniture, custom pieces, tables, shelving, the kind of joinery that takes 3 weeks and leaves sawdust in places you don't find for months. I'd been building the business slowly, selling at local markets, taking commissions through word of mouth. The apartment was my base of operations as much as it was my home. My family knew all of this. They'd watched me haul lumber up 3 flights of stairs. They'd seen the workshop, they knew every corner of that place. What they chose to tell everyone else was a different story entirely. In my family, Ethan was the one with potential. I was the one who was fine. You know that designation, the child who doesn't need anything, so no one asks. Ethan had started a small business of his own around the same time I moved in, and it had been struggling in ways that required a lot of quiet family conversation and zero public acknowledgement. My stability apparently made me the ideal candidate to absorb some of that pressure invisibly, and for a long time, I let it happen. Because they were my family, because I thought being reliable was the same thing as being loved. Here's what nobody at the Diwali dinner knew. I paid for that apartment myself. Every rupee of the down payment, I'd saved for 4 years to get there. The mortgage was in my name because I applied for it, qualified for it, and signed for it. I had paid 62 months of payments without missing one. I had the receipts, the bank statements, and the deed to prove it. When I was 23 and navigating the mortgage process for the first time, my parents had offered to help by advising me. I trusted that. I thought they were in my corner. What I didn't know until much later was that somewhere in those early conversations with extended family, the story had shifted, quietly, without anyone telling me directly. The version that circulated was that Ethan had set me up, that the apartment was his investment, his generosity, his gift to his younger sister. While she got on her feet, I had been on my feet the entire time. I just hadn't known I was being described as someone who wasn't. The Diwali dinner wasn't the first time. It was just the first time. It was just the first time it happened in a room full of people, out loud, while everyone was looking at me. My aunt had asked, genuinely, politely, how my furniture business was going. Before I could answer, my mom jumped in. She's doing well. She has stability. Ethan made sure of that. The apartment is taken care of. Someone laughed warmly. Someone said what a good brother. Ethan was sitting across from me, and he looked at his plate. He didn't correct her. I sat with a full glass in my hand and said nothing. My face was neutral. I have spent years making my face neutral in rooms like that one. But that wasn't the first time, like I said. 6 months before that, my dad had mentioned casually, the way you mentioned the weather, that Ethan might need to use the apartment for something in the future, depending on how things go with his work. I'd asked what that meant. He'd said not to worry about it, it was just family planning. I let it go because I didn't understand yet what they were planning. 8 months before that, a cousin had congratulated Ethan at a wedding for taking care of the family, and Ethan had accepted it. Smiled, said something about looking out for his sister. I was standing right there. Each time, I filed it away. Told myself I was misreading it. Told myself it was a miscommunication, a simplification, that my family wasn't deliberately rewriting what I had built into something that belonged to someone else. I was wrong about all of that. The dinner ended. People left. My mom hugged me at the door, and I drove home. I sat in the workshop for a while, not working, just sitting. looking at the table I'd been building for a client. A solid oak dining table, dovetail joints, 18 hours of work already in it. Something I'd made with my own hands in my own space. And I thought about my mom's voice. Ethan made sure of that. I thought about Ethan looking at his plate. I thought about 7 years. I picked up my phone. I called a locksmith. The locksmith came at 11 that night. New deadbolt, new handle, new keys. 40 minutes, done. I didn't sleep much after that. I sat on the workshop floor for a while, and I won't pretend I was calm, because I wasn't. I stared at my phone for probably an hour. My mom had texted twice. Nothing urgent, just good night, get home safe. Normal, like dinner had been normal. I almost called her back. I sat there and genuinely asked myself, am I overreacting? Is this actually what I think it is? Am I being selfish? That question, selfish, sat in my chest for a long time that night. But then I thought about my dad's comment. The apartment might be needed for something. And I thought about what something could possibly mean. And I opened my laptop. I pulled every document I had, scanned the ones that weren't already digital, organized everything chronologically. Mortgage application, approval letter, down payment transfer, 62 monthly statements, the deed. I printed all of it, put it in a folder. Then I went to sleep, because there was nothing left to do that night. At 8 the next morning, there was banging on my door. I looked through the peephole first. My parents, Ethan, and Ethan was holding a bag. I could see the outline of a drill through the fabric. I stood in my hallway for a moment in my socks and breathed. Then I opened the door. My mom started talking immediately. Something about how I was being dramatic, how the locks were a statement, how the family needed to discuss things like adults. My dad was quieter, which somehow made it worse. Ethan said, "Can we just come in and talk?" I said, "Let me show you something first." I brought the folder out, set it on the table, opened to the first page. Nobody moved toward it for a second. My mom said, "What is this?" I said, "It's the mortgage, and everything that came before it and after it. My name is on all of it." That's when the neighbor from downstairs knocked. I don't know what he heard, but he showed up holding a package that must have been delivered to his unit by mistake, and he looked at the four of us standing in my doorway and said very carefully, "Everything okay?" Sounded like construction. I tried to smile. "Yeah, just family stuff." He looked at Ethan's bag. "Right, well, if you need, I don't know, tools?" "They brought their own," I said. There was a silence that felt very long. "Okay, I'll just leave this here." He set the package down and went back downstairs. I turned back to my family. The folder was still open on the table. The meeting they demanded happened 2 weeks later. I brought the folder. They tried at first to make it about my attitude. My mom said I had hurt people. My aunt said I was acting out. Someone used the phrase ungrateful. I let it go around the room and come back to silence. Then my dad put it plainly. They wanted me to sign documentation that would add Ethan's name to the property, to keep peace, to show I was still part of this family. I asked why now, why after 7 years. It came out then in pieces because no one wanted to say it directly. Ethan's business wasn't just struggling, it was collapsing. He needed capital, and the fastest way to get it was a loan against property. And the property they'd been telling everyone he owned turned out, legally, he had nothing to put up. I looked at my brother. He looked like someone who had believed his own story for so long he'd forgotten it was fiction. I didn't say much. I said that I had spent 7 years building something, and that it was mine, and that I wasn't signing anything. My mom said, "We were just trying to help your brother." I said, "I know. You've always been trying to help your brother." I said, "And I've always been the one that was fine." I picked up my folder and left. 3 weeks later, Ethan's loan application was denied. The bank had firm property ownership. His name wasn't on it. It had never been on it. I found out through a cousin who didn't realize I didn't already know. She texted me thinking I'd want an update. I read the message once, set my phone face down on my workbench, and went back to the table I was building. A month after all of this, I joined a local maker's mentorship program. I showed my work publicly for the first time, not at a market, not online, but in a room full of people who were there specifically to pay attention. Afterwards, standing near the door with a glass of water, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Like the ground was actually under my feet. My parents came. I hadn't invited them, but they came. My dad walked up to me and said quietly, "We were just worried about your brother." I almost said I know. The words were halfway out, but I stopped because I know would have made it easier for everyone, easier to move on, easier to let it become a misunderstanding, easier to return to the version of me that absorbed things quietly and called it love. So I just nodded, and the conversation trailed off into something that wasn't resolved, just quieter. I drove home, let myself in with my key, locked the door behind me. Here's what I know now. The cruelest thing about being used by the people who raised you is that you spend years wondering if you're the problem, if needing something for yourself makes you selfish, if protecting what you built makes you cold. It doesn't. Sometimes the bravest thing you do is simply refuse to hand over what's already yours. I want to ask you something specific before you go. Have you ever been the stable one in your family? The person everyone assumed could handle it, so they never asked if you were okay? Tell me in the comments, because I think that experience is more common than most people admit, and I think you deserted her. She had this particular habit. Fev to say it out loud somewhere. If this story hit something real for you, like it, subscribe, share it with someone who needs to hear it. New video coming soon. See you in the next one.